Hello, my name is Franklynn and I'm a student at University College London and Yale. Now chips are a really yummy snack, but they can be pretty high in fat, so today I'm going to show you a recipe that doesn't require frying. We're going to bake instead to cut down on the fat, and we're going to use some different root vegetables instead of the usual white potato, and they'll contain a broader range of nutrients. So we're using 3 different vegetables: beets, parsnips, and sweet potatoes. And all of these root vegetables are really high in fiber, vitamin C and B vitamins. Parsnips and beets are especially high in folic acid, and sweet potatoes will give you really long-lasting energy because the sugar in sweet potatoes takes a longer time for your body to break down than the typical sugars you would get in the usual white potato. Sweet potatoes are also really high in iron, so you're getting a really broad range of nutrients in this recipe, and the best way to ensure that these vegetables retain their nutrients when they're cooked is to bake them instead of frying them. So when you get these vegetables from the store, they look a little bit like this. They're quite dirty on the skins because they grow in the ground after all, so you're going to have to wash them really well. Just wash them with water and preferably a brush, really scrub the skin. And there's going to be some hard parts to these vegetables that you need to cut off before you get started. So the end, you might even have some leaves growing out here. Same thing on a beet, the end looks quite similar and you'll probably have some leaves. So you just want to cut off the whole end, about right there, because it's just hard and it's not going to cook well. You also want to cut off the very tip. You might have kind of scraggly bits here. You just want to cut that right off. And if there's any other really hard pieces of skin, just slice it off, just peel it a little bit. Same thing with a sweet potato. The edge is going to be quite hard, so you just cut that off on each end. And if there's any kind of bruised bits or hard skins, you can just peel that off. And you want to cut these cross-sectionally, so when you're done, you end up with these circular slices. Now they're all going to be a little bit different sizes. These are the parsnips here. Sometimes they're really tiny, and that's fine. You can compare that to the sweet potato. It's quite large. You want to cut them about 1/4 of an inch thick, maybe a little bit thinner for the sweet potatoes because they are the harder vegetable out of the 3 that we're using, so if they take a little longer to cook, they might not all be done at the same time if you put them in the oven at the same time. So cutting the sweet potato a little bit thinner than the parsnip, for example, will help so that all your vegetables are done at the same time. Now, I was able to get beets at the store that were already peeled and cut, and which is really helpful because when you buy a beet and you try to cut it, it makes a little bit of a mess. So it's fine if you're able to find beets that are not already cut. That's great because it's usually cheaper, but you have to be really careful because, as you can see, my bowl is turning a little bit purple, and the purple will stain your clothes if you're not careful. So it's quite an easy vegetable to cut once you do the same thing you would do with a parsnip. You wash it, you cut off both ends, and you scrub it. But it's softer than the other vegetables, so quite easy to cut. And when you cut the sweet potatoes and the parsnips, you want a really, really sharp knife because they're quite hard. So the sharper your knife, the easier it will be to cut through, and therefore it's a lot safer. Now you want to preheat the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit while you are preparing your food. Now here I just have a regular cooking pan that I've sprayed with a little bit of oil. You can also use non-stick tin foil. That would work fine. And you want to just lightly dust each of your chips with a little bit of olive oil. Now this is where baking is a lot healthier than frying, because if you were frying these, you'd have to use a lot more oil, and each chip would just absorb a lot of that oil and fat. Whereas a little bit of olive oil helps the chips to crisp up as they cook, and it's also healthy to have olive oil in moderation because it contains really heart-healthy fats. So you also sprinkle it with a little bit of salt and pepper if you wish, and then here's the fun part because you can just experiment and put any toppings on that you want. I'm choosing some dried herbs today, which I think go really well with the parsnips. You can also try any spices that you want, some grated cheese, maybe garlic, maybe some lemon juice. I'm putting a little bit of cinnamon on top of the sweet potatoes because I think it goes really well with the sweet taste. Then you put these in for about 20 minutes in the oven, and you want to check them after 10 minutes and turn them over. Make sure they cook evenly on each side. It depends how thinly you've sliced them, so take a look and only take them out when they look about like this. They've crisped up, they're a little bit browned on the edges without being burnt, and they usually curl up a little bit too. So usually about 20 minutes, and you're done. Enjoy!